Welcome back to Joyful on Lynn Street. I have not done a video in forever, and mostly that's because just lack of time. And the time I do have, I've been spending doing other things I feel right now that I need to be doing. So when it comes to my own personal priorities, this is pretty low on the list. But anyway, all that aside, quick life update. Our son is just over 7 months now, so that's exciting. And I think that's pretty much our life update right now. Just keep doing all the things that we do and living life, and that's what life is the day to day. But anyway, I wanted to do a video today on something I've been thinking about for a long time. I'm not going to be showing you how to do anything per se. Well, maybe in a little in a sort of kind of way, but nothing, physical. But so obviously, if you guys follow me either on my channel here on YouTube or on Instagram, I'm Joyful on Lynn Street. Hopefully it's obvious what is really near and dear to my heart. One of the things that's really near and dear to my heart and something I'm very passionate about is homemaking, is being a homemaker, what that looks like. And it's just a desire that I have to, hopefully, by God's grace, to excel still more in that and to keep pressing on and to learn as I go, learn different things, and also to encourage other people to homemake and I feel like it's not something, unfortunately, that's really taught a lot. Especially some things are, maybe some things aren't. I feel like there's a real lack of that, especially in our culture that is very woman forward and very much downplays this role of a woman. This is one of her intended roles as a woman, and it's such a beautiful and wonderful and blessed thing, and it's looked upon as being insignificant or something that is beneath me to do as a woman, or if someone tells me I need to be doing it, it's looked as, all sorts of things. I think you understand what I'm saying. I don't get a lot of sleep right now, so my brain doesn't function and the words don't come as readily as I would hope. But I think you understand what I'm saying. And anyway, there is nothing more harmful, I think, to a role of a woman than to swallow and believe the rhetoric that you hear in this world, that a woman needs to do X, Y, and Z, that yes, we can, we do this, we can do that, we can do everything a man can do, all these things, while downplaying the role of not just a wife and a mother, but a homemaker. And that's another thing I feel really strongly about when it comes to homemaking is you do not have to be A, married, B, have children, or C, even live outside of your parents' home to be a homemaker or to cultivate those things that that you should be, I believe, as a woman. And anyway, so that being said, I thought, especially as women who are maybe just starting out as homemaking, I've been homemaking for, I would say over I'm trying to do math here. I would have considered myself a homemaker when I was still living under my parents' roof. I moved out of my parents' house when I was maybe 28. I'm currently 35. I lived on my own for 5 years, owned my own home. Since then I've been married and I've had a little boy, but I would still have considered myself a homemaker while I was still living with my parents. And the reason I say that is I was under their roof, so that home was not mine. It was my mother's domain. That was the home that God had given her to run and to be productive in. That being said, as someone who was her daughter, and not just my mom, but she had a big role in that because she was a woman. Something that was very important to them was instilling in me and my sisters and training us how to be homemakers. And not just, I don't want you to think some other thing that was really important to them too was also training us to be independent. And I know that seems like these two things are mutually exclusive, and it's not the case. I have two sisters, and two of us didn't get married until we were older. One of my sisters was 28 and I was 32. And during that time, adulthood, when you're not married, we were still being productive, and we were taught how to take care of ourselves, as women. And there was no guarantee. I lived alone for, like I said, 5 years, and I worked, and there's no guarantee that I was going to be married. That even staying home within and taking care of a home was solely something I was going to be able to do. So it was still important for me to know how to take care of myself, how to even provide for myself, in those things. So that being said, these things are getting a job as a woman, and there is a place for that, and I think is important as well. So I don't want you to think that I'm, excluding working outside of the home. There's a time for that, I think, and it can be beneficial, especially, when you're single. It's something you can be productive and do. Is it required? Not necessarily. I do think it is important for a woman to be active, to be working and to be active in whatever she's doing. Baxter. And sometimes when you don't have your own home, there is a limit to what you can do. And obviously you have bills, and you need to be providing for yourself and learn how to do that. I think that's really important. I feel strongly about that for a woman as well. But that being said, there are still, while you're doing that, your priorities, I believe, still need to be the home and working doing those things that a homemaker would do. And that isn't limited, as we're going to see, just inside the home. It's also outside the home as well, to some degree. The role of a homemaker kind of shifts and changes with the seasons of life a little bit in what that looks like. But I say, excuse me, that I was a homemaker when I lived with my parents, because even though that home was my mother's domain, she still allowed me freedom to do things within the home and to cultivate different things, different desires, to learn to do different things that would benefit. It benefited our home, my parents' home, but also would one day benefit my home. And I think that's really important. And if the Lord blesses us with daughters, that's something I want to do too. One specific way that my parents gave me some free reign was outside in the garden. I had a really big garden at my parents' house, and I poured a lot into it for years. So I guess I would say I would consider myself a homemaker for 15 years. Not 15? How old am I? Goodness, yeah. Like somewhere when I was about 20. My early 20s, I feel like I really started to invest more in doing things and learning things. But anyway. So yeah, I put a lot of energy and time into the garden. I learned how to plant a lot of different things. Then I got into canning. I got into preserving food. And it's just something I really love doing. So that's something I learned a lot. And that's the thing too, is when you're single and you don't have your own home yet, it is a wonderful opportunity to learn all these things, to learn to do some things that will benefit your own family one day. And even if it's not just your family, even if you were never married, it's still a benefit. I benefited from it when I lived by myself in my home. I learned how to take care of my home. I learned how to take care of outside of my home. And also when you can and preserve food, you can still do that. There's not as much, because it's one person. So there's not as much of that I did when I was I did a little bit, and it's even something you can give as gifts or pass on to others, teach to younger girls too. So there's really, I'd say it's always a beneficial thing, and especially when you're young and single. Usually those things coincide, but they don't always. In my case, they didn't. To really take advantage of every opportunity you're giving to learn how to pursue some different things, and to, again, cultivate that role of a woman and what that looks like, especially in times of waiting. And when you're single, typically, it's a pretty big time of waiting. You're not sure what you're going to be doing, maybe work-wise, or what your future is going to look like. You're kind of just, but this gives you a real pursuit. It gave me a real pursuit, aside from just pursuing the things of the Lord, which this is how the Lord has designed a woman. Things the Lord has designed for a woman to be, and for a woman to be productive in. So in that sense, you are pursuing the things of the Lord when you are pursuing these different things. But anyway, this is a long intro to this video, but what I really wanted to do today was I sat down because I started thinking of all the different things we do as a homemaker. All the different things I do daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, quarterly, and then all the other things, and it's a pretty big list, okay? So one of my pet peeves is I've heard people say, I was working and I tried to stay home for a bit, but I got bored. I didn't know what to do. Like, homemaking was boring. If you think homemaking is boring, then you're doing it wrong. It's one of the most aside from just being the job that was literally that God designed for a woman. So in that, it's incredibly blessed and productive and brings so much fulfillment and joy for a woman. It's honestly, just from a practical standpoint, you learn how to do so many different things, and you're able to do so many different things. Your job is, there's a lot of variety in what I do throughout the day. And there's a lot of monotony as well, like with any job. But anyway, so what I thought I would do quick is, if you are either new to homemaking, or it's something you're considering, maybe you are married but you still work, you don't have kids, you're thinking about quitting your job and staying home full time, is that something I can even do? There's a lot of different reasons that we as women work. One is purely just from the social pressure, we should work, all women work, and we're again, it's looked down upon to be at home. And so I think there can be a pressure to do that. Also, there's maybe a financial aspect involved in there. And I would say, my personal opinion on that would be, I think if you're single, work is necessary. Okay, I worked full time. I had to support myself, and I had to, pay for life. If you're married, I think, again, I know there's some differing opinions here. I don't think it's wrong to work if you're married. And there may be times where, especially when you're newly married, that financially maybe you both do need to have a little bit of a source of income. I do think, though, that it's possible for you to survive on just your husband's income. And again, situations vary. I know, especially if your husband, you're just starting out, you've got maybe some school debt or whatever. There's maybe some things in there that need to be taken care of. But the amount of money you can save your family by staying home and running a home is more, on average, I would say, than you could make working full time. And that's my argument for that. Not only is it something that I think we are to be doing as women, but also it's a benefit. I cannot stress enough how much of a benefit it is for your family. Especially, one thing I do feel a little bit even more strongly about, okay, when you are married, no kids, work or not work, maybe work part-time. I'm not opposed to, someone wants to work part-time. I worked the first year of our marriage, and it was really strong on my heart to stay home. I wanted to stay home, and I started to kind of just dial back work a little bit, and then eventually I stayed home, and then like a month or so later, I was pregnant. But anyway, we didn't know that at the time. Where was I going with that? My brain. Oh yeah, I think there is sometimes, depending on your personality, we all have different struggles. Some of us struggle with like motivation, we struggle with drive, we struggle with sticking to certain things. We need structure, we need a schedule in order to stay productive. And I do think in some cases, I think a part-time job for a woman while she is married can be beneficial in that way. If this is something I know I really struggle with, I need to be actively working, then I would encourage that. I think that's a good thing. However, I would encourage it to the point that you are not neglecting your responsibilities in the home. If you can work and you maintain those things in the home that we are to be doing as women, then good. If you can't, I would say my personal conviction would be that you would either need to cut back on work or you need to quit altogether, because your home needs to be priority. Your husband needs to be priority. Once you have a child, if you have kids, I feel pretty strongly that you need to stay home. That you need to stay home when you need to raise that child. The Lord has blessed us with children. The Lord's blessed Nathan and I with a little boy. And that, again, shifts my role again. It's incorporated another part of homemaking, which is motherhood. And it's been a huge part of homemaking now for me, and learning how to incorporate that while still maintaining some of the other things I need to do at home and learning the balance. There's some things that I have had to put on the back burner that aren't as important and focus on completely on him for a time. And there's seasons of that where things shift. So yeah, but I do feel, my own personal conviction is if you have kids, you need to stay home with them. And some people send their kids to school, some people homemake, so when they get to be school age, they'll go off and work again. Right or wrong, that's everyone's own personal conviction. I guess it depends on your school system a little bit. Schools are so bad in general. I'm sure there are exceptions that Nathan and I personally we're going to be homeschooling Bridger, and we're probably not ever going to be sending him to school. I know there are exceptions in there, and if you you happen to be involved in a school that is solid, as maybe more private school, there can be benefit for your child maybe to be involved in something like that. So I'm not saying there's like a clear-cut across the board way in which you have to do something, but all this to say that, again, your role is constantly shifting. And so how do if I wanted to stay home, okay, if I'm married, no children, how am I to be productive? What am I to be doing? This is kind of the point of my video. So I apologize for the really long intro. Here's the point. What does it look like? What are things that I can be doing? Sometimes we're just married, or it's new, and we don't even know how to homemake, or we don't even know all the things that would fall under that whole category of homemaking. And again, I'm very thankful and to the Lord, and I'm very blessed by the way I was raised. And this was something my mom excelled at, was being a homemaker, and she cultivated in me that desire. And also through watching her, observing what she did day in and day out, she stayed home with us full time. That without even thinking, some of the things I think I take for granted, some of the things that I just do around the home that maybe other people don't know because they weren't raised that way. But anyway, so I thought it might be beneficial, like I said, to just go over a list of things, of ideas. Just if you are struggling with what can I be doing? Is this even worth it? Is it beneficial to my family? Would it be more beneficial for me to be working to bring income in? And ultimately, I can't answer those questions for you. my suggestion would be for you and your husband to spend some time studying what the role of a woman is and to come before the Lord and to make that decision. Only you guys can do that. It's ultimately between you and the Lord. But I would really encourage you to take a good long look at what a woman is. Proverbs 31 is a wonderful example of that. There are other examples in God's Word of women who are faithful in what they've done. And staying home is not just a cultural thing. We think of, God's Word of being old-fashioned maybe. I hate that. It is not out of date. It is just as applicable now as it was when it was written. So yeah, take the time to think those things through. And even from a practical standpoint, if you're worried about income, sit down and start to think through, if I stay home, how much money would we save versus how much I'm going to bring in? Okay? And a couple examples off the top of my head is food. If I start really investing in making things from scratch, having food, cooking, do you know how much money you save? A lot of times when you're working, you come home and you've got to get something together fast. How much of what you are cooking is ready-made or half ready-made, or you're buying things that are frozen? You know how expensive it is to buy frozen things as opposed to buying something, fresh and putting the work in yourself, making it from scratch? It's significant. It's really significant. So that alone, or if maybe you have to go out to eat because you don't have time to cook, that's really expensive. Maybe you're working so you don't have time to clean, so you've got to hire a cleaning crew. That's a lot of money. And the biggest one is if you have children and you're working, it costs a lot of money. It's over $1,000 at least for someone to watch your kids, to daycare, to watch your kids while you are working. So the amount of money that you're going to save by doing X, Y, and Z, I don't think you can say, okay, this isn't going to work financially. That's not the issue. If that's what you're worried about, put that aside. Really sit down and crunch some numbers here, and it's not going to take long, and you're going to find out you're fine, and actually you're going to be ahead. If you're really homemaking well and you're doing the things, you're saving money and doing the things you need to be doing as a woman, you're going to be saving money for your family in the long run. Or you may say, well, I'm not sending my kids to daycare. I'm not paying that. My grandparents watching them or something like that. And it's wonderful that you have that. That's better over a daycare for sure. However, then it comes down to who's raising your kids. Your children were they're entrusted to you and your husband to raise, and you and your husband to raise alone. It's wonderful that they have godly examples, if they have that in their lives, and we certainly want them to invest in our children. I'm thankful for that, for the parents that both Nathan and I have. But they are not Bridger's parents. They are not who God has put in charge of raising them and given the responsibility. When we stand before the Lord, Nathan and I are accountable for how Bridger was raised. Not my parents and not Nathan's parents, or not an aunt or an uncle or XYZ. It's our responsibility. So that being said, again, I want to go over some of the things that I wrote down, things that I do, and then ask you guys too, what are things that maybe you can comment with things that you do. I'm sure there's so many things that I didn't include on this list, and I'd love to know other things that you guys do for your families, just so I can even get some more ideas of things I can do and incorporate. And anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go through this list, and I'm hoping it'll be an encouragement to you. It'll spur you on and give you some excitement in pursuing some of these things if you're not already, and or just encourage you to keep on keeping on if you are. So Bridger's up. I'm going to go get him, and then I'm going to come back and go through the list. All right, I'm back, +1. We'll see how long this lasts. Okay, so I wanted to just start going over basically some of the daily things that we do, and I know I'm forgetting things, and even as I was sitting rocking him just a minute ago, I thought of something else. So yeah, please don't hesitate to comment. I'd love to know how you guys run your home, and I just think it's a way we can encourage women and give ourselves ideas to, be faithful. And some of these things just, maybe they don't seem important, but they are so important in so many ways, like taking care of the home. So your home just in general, when you take care of things, it doesn't depreciate in value. You're taking care of it, maintaining it. So even cleaning it, all these little things that you do, you're taking care of your home, not only from a financial standpoint, it's a good investment to do that, but also because you are fulfilling the call and the command for us to be good stewards of the things that God has given us. So it's important. It's all important. I don't want any of it to seem insignificant. So here's some of the things that we do. So some of the daily things, and I love having a schedule. I do. Before Bridger was born, I wrote down a lot of stuff, just because one, I enjoyed just the task of like writing things down. But I just haven't had the time to sit and do that. But especially if you're just starting out, I encourage you to make a schedule. I'm going to do this on this day, this on this day, this on this day. And then after you're doing it for a while, it just kind of starts to become innate and you don't think about it, that this is what I need to do on Monday or Tuesday. So, some of the biggest thing, daily thing I do is keeping the kitchen clean. That's huge. That's almost one of the first things I do when I wake up in the morning. If I haven't cleaned the kitchen from supper the night before, there's always something to do in the kitchen. That's huge. I clean it that morning, which involves either washing some dishes, loading the dishwasher, emptying the dishwasher, putting things away so that it's ready for the day's dishes. A lot of times, several times we forget to run the dishwasher, so I need to do that right away in the morning. Cleaning up, keeping the counters wiped down and clean so their things don't get cluttered. I don't like clutter. I'm not a clutter person. Everyone has different preferences for even decor and stuff. I don't like clutter. I'm more minimal, although I do have some decor backs. But anyway, that's a good tip too for just cleaning in general. One of the best ways to help keep your house clean, or the easiest ways to keep it clean, is to really declutter. Another huge tip for cleaning that I like is to keep things off the floor. Really use your vertical space, whether it's just shelves. It's so much easier to vacuum and to do all the things if you're not having to move so many things. And plus, dust and stuff like to collect on things that are sitting on the floor. Oh boy. Anyway, so cleaning the kitchen. And that's what I mean, just that kind of a quick clean. I'm not talking about like floors and stuff. I personally put that under just cleaning the house in general. I don't do that daily. I just keep the kitchen clean. Okay, then tidy the house. Every morning I go through every room. In here in the living room, it usually means folding a blanket or two, putting the pillows back on the couch, picking up anything we've left on the coffee table. What else do I? Picking up some of Bridger's toys maybe, which is something I do throughout the day. I'll pick up toys after he's done. So it's not just he's adding to mess upon mess upon mess, or I'm adding to mess upon mess. Be gentle with Baxter. Picking up, putting clothes away, clothes in our bedroom. Usually, it's funny, my husband makes fun of me because usually it's typically the man who leaves clothes out. In this case, it's me. I tend to leave clothes draped over things. So I need to put those away, fold them, put them away. In Bridger's room, a lot of times it's emptying. I have two, because we do cloth diapers and we do disposable like at night. I have two bins where I put diapers. So usually a lot of times I have to empty his diaper bin. I don't do that every day. But these are some things as I go through each room in the morning I'm looking for. I reread books to him. Sometimes it's putting the books back on the shelf. Just keeping your house in a general tidy order I find doing that, be gentle, doing that every morning is just so helpful. And for one, you never know when someone's going to come over to visit, and your house it should never take a long time to tidy up your house. And if it's something you're doing constantly, it just becomes habitual that you're putting things away when you're in each room. That's really helpful in just an overall clean house. Another place I tend to clutter is the dining room table because I use it as like quote unquote my office, or I'll study on there. So I have books of things that I'm involved in, that a book I'm reading, my study stuff I'm studying. it's all kind of there. So I don't really have a desk, so I use the dining room table. So that needs to be helped a little bit. So I'll declutter that. Which a lot of that, this is just kind of a basic tidy. But then when I clean the house, when I go through and you're actually wiping things off, I find that as I clean, I kind of declutter as I go, and I clean and put things away as I go. So anyway, tidying the house. Very important, spending time in God's Word. This may seem like, I know especially when there's so much to do, like you don't want to take the time just to sit down and spend time in God's Word. It can be a challenge sometimes to stop and put everything else on pause. And I fell victim to that as well many times. Just there's so much in my mind, things I need to do, especially with a little one, that you just don't take the time to do that. But it's amazing, like when you do and how the Lord blesses that, you find you have a lot more time than you realized to do stuff. And plus, this is how we feed our soul. And this is how we give ourselves the strength to do what we need to do every day. We draw it from the Lord. We draw it from His grace. And that's how we maintain that, is by spending time with Him and His Word. And we're being fed by those things. We're keeping our perspective right. Why I'm doing the things I'm doing. It's not just to check all the boxes or to maintain a certain legalism in my life, which is terrible. We're doing these things because they're right, because we're obeying, because they honor the Lord, they honor our husbands and our children. This is why we do them. Anyway, again, I tend to get off track a little bit. I get talking about stuff. But so spending time in God's Word, important, very important. Laundry. I know everyone has a different, and that's the thing. These are things that I do. Everyone has a different process. I do laundry a little bit every day. Some people I know just have like one big laundry day, and if that works for you, hey, do it. It doesn't work as much for us because we don't have tons of clothes. Again, with the whole decluttering thing, trying to keep things down. So if I don't do laundry at least several times a week, we'll run out of things, or Bridger will run out of things. Especially Nathan will run out of things. I tend to wear the same things over and over. I just kind of, it's not bad. But Nathan will run out of things. So I do laundry I usually have something always going. So in the morning, I'll empty our hamper. There are some days where, if I've just done laundry, I don't necessarily need to do it the next day. I'd say like every other day for us. I'll empty the hamper, immediately go put a wash down, put them in the wash, keep that going, and then later, dryer, bring them up and fold them. And my big thing is, the thing I struggle with the most with where laundry comes in is sometimes folding them, but honestly it's just putting them away. They'll be folded in the basket, but then, okay, put them away. So I'm trying to get better at that. We all have those things that we just get hung up on, and for some reason that's mine. But anyway, so that's like a constant thing that you're doing. Laundry. Cooking is huge. Obviously. Breakfast. I don't always cook breakfast for Nathan. I do sometimes. He likes to do it himself too. So we kind of do a little bit of both. More recently, I've been cooking him breakfast. Or sometimes if I've worked ahead and I've done meal planning and meal prep ahead, he has breakfast sandwiches in the freezer that he'll take, which is another thing that we do. But yeah, so cooking breakfast, and now obviously I have to eat. But with Bridger, and he eats solids, he eats some significant amount of solids. I was just telling Nathan this the other day, I'm really having to start to be intentional about cooking even lunch now in the afternoon. Because especially right now, he can't eat a sandwich the way we would. One of his favorite things is like beef and noodles. So I just made a big thing of beef and noodles the other day, and he can eat on that for a few days for lunch. But anyway, so that's another element of my day now that wasn't before. I didn't have to cook lunch before myself. I just usually ate leftovers. But so yeah, then I have to make him breakfast and feed him. So that's another big thing that takes time. Feeding him. Let's see. Oh yeah, so just more on cooking. Then there comes the supper. So everyone does supper a little bit differently. Some people really benefit to sitting down maybe on a Monday or a weekend, whatever, however you do it, and meal planning for the whole week. I'm going to have this on Monday, I'm going to have this on Tuesday. I did that for a little bit, or I would I would plan, I think, 3 to 4 meals a week. And then we would just have leftovers on those other days. More of what I'm doing now is not planning. I know I'll go down, I know what kind of meat I have in the freezer, and I'll take something, if I'm planning ahead, which I don't always do this, I will take meat out for the week and put it in the fridge, or just meat out for that day, that morning, and put it on the counter to unthaw. And then I'll kind of be thinking throughout the day, okay, what can I do with this meat? And then I'll come up with something. The reason I started doing that, there's a couple reasons. I found out that when I was meal planning, and like, when I say meal planning, I'm talking about like specific recipes that I would find and do, and which is totally fine, and they were good. But what I was finding was that I noticed our pantry was really starting to get full. There's things that you buy for certain recipes, and that you only use a little of, and then all of a sudden they start to accumulate. And if you're not, and you're just doing other random recipes without making the same thing over and over and over, those things are just going to stay there. So instead of just meal planning, just go looking in the pantry and saying, okay, what can I make out of this? So that my pantry doesn't just get overflowing and it's just a lot of money just sitting there that's not getting used. I'm really wanting to be a little bit more efficient in using some of the things that we have just sitting around. That's so good. So that's kind of how I cook right now. Not to say that I don't do some recipes here and there, but in general, I kind of have some go-to things that I like to make, and I'll just make them a lot of different ways. One of them is pizza. We love making pizza. Tonight I'm doing pizza, so I need to actually make some pizza dough right now for tonight. And then I like to make different types of pizza. So it's a good way to just get rid of stuff in the fridge to throw it on a pizza. Or paninis. We love paninis, to throw things into paninis. Just making sure you always have certain staples laying around the house, and you can always put a meal together really quick. Casserole, kind of a rice casserole, is another thing that is pretty easy. Making those, and not buying those cream of soups, because they're not good for you. It's really easy to make cream of whatever soup. I usually make like just a cream of onion or cream of garlic soup for our casseroles. There's so many other things that we make, and I can't think of any. I think of other at the top of my head. But anyway, you kind of get what I'm saying there with cooking. You could spend your life in the kitchen as a homemaker if you wanted to. That's really that's the fountain. Oh, goodness. What happened there, buddy? What happened? Did you get a zipper that hurt? So many things you can do in the kitchen. So another thing, saving money, is making baked goods in your kitchen. Look at this one. Bread is huge. Bread can be expensive, especially good bread. We like sourdough. I make our own sourdough bread. Snacks, making your own snacks. Those things can be super expensive, whether it's granola bars, cookies, bagels. We make a lot of tortillas. Another thing I make a lot of. I made some sourdough crackers in the fat. We kind of go through phases, and I'm not making as many of those right now. But anything baked, you're constantly making muffins, something that you can snack on. One, it's healthier for you. You know all the ingredients in there. And two, you're making it, you're saving money. So, good things. So again, a lot of stuff we could make if we wanted to, and that we could spend a lot of time in the kitchen. And you kind of have to just decide, I don't know, what's best for you guys. Such a tickle in my throat right now. What you use the most of, what works for you, and that's kind of a process. So be patient with that if you're just wanting to start, if you're starting out cooking. Find what you guys use a lot of. And it's kind of lots of trial and error. Anyway, those are kind of the basic daily things. I'm sure there's other things that I do without thinking. And a lot of it revolves around Bridger right now. Sometimes I just have playing with him. I could put down. I just have to stop everything I'm doing and just sit down and play with him, give him some attention. So that's a big thing. Obviously, putting him down for naps, changing him, all the things. That's kind of my daily life right now. I know it's my daily life right now. Yeah. So weekly things. Weekly things I put down is clean my stove. I like to clean my stove at least weekly. It gets dirty so fast because it just happens, right? When we cook and stuff, take the grates off, clean it down, and then just in general, clean the house weekly. I do tend to vacuum several times a week. I wouldn't say clean, I just vacuum. And I find for me, if I vacuum several times a week, it makes cleaning that much easier and that much faster. One of the other reasons, because we have a couple cats, and I don't like cat hair, and I like to keep that down and under control, especially as Bridget starts to kind of crawl around and move around the floor. I'd rather have him not swimming in cat hair. So I vacuum several times a week. Clean the house. So a general clean for me is vacuum, dust everything, dust mop. We have wood floors, and then just mop. So we have linoleum in kind of the dining room and kitchen, and then tile in the bathroom. So I'll mop those, and then clean the bathroom. So all of the rooms in our house, clean the house. And however you want to break that up is, say Mondays I do bedrooms, Tuesdays I'll do the bathroom. However you break that up. Because our house is so small, the only thing I will break up is usually cleaning the bathroom a different day. Everything else just does not take that long for me to just clean the house in one day, which is one of the benefits of having a smaller house. So keeping the house clean. Meal planning. Again, we just kind of already talked about this, but if this is something that you like to do that benefits you, I find it does a little bit to some degree, but not as much as I used to. Does Mom need to get you a toy? Does Mom need to get you something to play with? Yeah. So, but that can be a really big thing. It can be really beneficial, especially when you're first starting out and you're trying new things. Maybe you're not sure about cooking yet. You're kind of learning some different things still. I think it can be really helpful because following recipes, the more you do it, the more you're going to just know, okay, this is what I need to do with something. It requires this. So, I know there's other things. Anyway, these are things that came to my mind, and like I said, I know I'm leaning out a whole lot, but this is enough as it is. Monthly, I put mending. So, mending, boom, mending. So any holes that Nathan has in his shirts, in his jeans, holes that I get, anything, altering. If you hey, what's the problem? If you need to hem something. So monthly, I put mending down. I don't actually have tons of mending to do usually. I've done several holes in Nathan's shirts, but sometimes he gets so many holes at some point, I'm like, all right, you just, it's just not worth me mending them. But, so mending, paying bills. And this, I think, goes to couple. I do think if you can, a woman should be in charge of kind of the whole financial, whether it's balancing the checkbook, which I guess that's not really a thing anymore because everything is online, but paying bills, writing checks for whatever you need to do, making sure that's done. That's a big help. Something you can do for your husband, so he doesn't have to do that while he's busy working and doing all the other things. I think we share that responsibility a little bit. I do pretty much most of paying the bills, but sometimes Nathan will pay a few too. Okay, cleaning the basement. Again, if you don't have a basement, this doesn't apply. This is something that's important to me. Our basement, I spend quite a bit of time down there because of my sewing stuff is down in the basement. The laundry room is down in the basement. So I like to at least vacuum the basement once a month to keep it clean. So I don't go down there and I'm like, I don't want to be down here. That's the thing. When things are dirty, you just really don't want to be there. You don't want to spend time there. It's not relaxing. So I think it's, from just even that standpoint, it's important to keep things clean. Okay, another thing I thought monthly is cards. Keeping track of maybe birthdays either in your family or maybe it's a birthday of someone in your church or a friend that Lord has laid on your heart to send out a card to. So birthdays, a thinking of you card, just a way of encouragement. thank you cards. I'm terrible at sending out thank you cards. I have a couple right now I need to send out. But yeah, having a time maybe once a month where you sit down and catch up on cards and stuff. This is a wonderful thing you can do from your family, for your family, especially as a homemaker. And this is something I would classify as just as even out if you're working outside the home, if you will. You're making your house. It all comes down to what you're doing for your home, and you're making it just a place that people want to come, and a place that people want to relax in, and encouraging people too. That's a role we're to do regardless, right? Okay, mister. Okay. Hold up. Okay. I apologize for the music in his toy. He's sitting in his chair. He likes that. Yeah, so cards. That's important. Reaching out to people. Yeah, okay. Washing rugs. When I say washing rugs monthly, for me it's like those rugs that you just throw down, those smaller ones. Like I have a couple in the kitchen, rugs that we walk in right outside the door. There's at least three that I like to wash relatively regularly. Again, it's keeping dirt down. When you're doing these things, it's just relatively regularly. You're keeping dirt down, and it makes maintaining your home so much easier. And you're breaking these things down, so you're not having to do it all in one day. So just having a general idea of all these things that I need to do, writing them down, okay, whether daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever, and then doing them, that way you don't have to worry about them and stress about, okay, I need to do this. It's already kind of there. So rugs. Inventory. Okay. What I mean by this is like, okay, clothes. So not to be whatever, but like sometimes Nathan's, underwear, his briefs or something, they're starting to get old, or holes, or his socks too. They'll get holes in them. And yeah, I don't patch those things. I mean, if you want to patch them, go for it. It's time to just, take things, throw them out, get new things. That's what I mean by inventory, I guess. That's one of the things I mean. Clothes. Keeping things refreshed. So that's an important thing. For Bridger, even for myself, although I tend to forget things for myself, but yeah. So that for clothes inventory. Also, okay, soaps. Things in the house, staples that you use, toilet paper, things in your pantry, staples, rice for us, things we buy in bulk. Taking an inventory of all these things. Okay, what do I need to get? What am I getting low on? Soap is another thing. Again, these aren't all things that you have to do, but they're just suggestions and things that we do, and to help give you maybe some ideas. So we make our own soap. For the shower, not hand soap. I'd still buy hand soap one of these days maybe, but not now. I make a bar of soap, and then we use it for everything, our hair, body, everything. And so when I make soap, it makes 8 bars, I think, and it takes almost 4 weeks to cure, at least 2. So that's something I need to stay on top of. How many bars do we have left? Because it takes some time. I can't just make it and then we have it. Laundry soap, that's actually something I need to make probably today or this weekend, because I make my own laundry soap. It's super fast to make, much cheaper, and you're not putting all this additional stuff in your clothes. Yeah, so take an inventory of stuff. What do I need to do? Check all these things. How are they good? How are they doing? I'm sure there's other things I've forgotten in there. There's so many things that could fall under inventory. They're not things that you buy every day. You know what I'm talking about. Maybe even like quarterly you buy them, but just checking on them, making sure things are good. How are your towels doing? Do they have holes in them? All things. Vitamins. Let's see. Oh, another thing I put under here. Okay, I put food preservation under monthly. I didn't honestly know where to put it. During certain times of year, like the summer or the early fall, food preservation is at least weekly, if not daily for me. So that kind of fluctuates with the seasons a little bit. We have a garden. If you don't have a garden, or if you have the ability to have a garden, like you have a little bit of a yard, I would encourage you to do that. That's a wonderful way to save money for your family, and you're having better food for them. And that's a huge thing that we could spend a whole nother on. But just grow some basic things at first. Grow things that you guys use all the time. Tomatoes is a big one, and peppers. and then kind of expand, add something here and there, grow something that you enjoy growing, that you love, and it'll kind of give you a taste for it, like, okay, and then you'll branch out and add more things, and then you kind of have to find what works best for your family. That's something I've discovered over the last 2 or so years, is like, I planted this, but we didn't really use it a lot, or planted this and this really worked for us and we used it on everything. So we don't have tons of space for a garden, so trying to capitalize on that space as much as I can is a big thing. And there's things that I've been learning these last couple of years that have worked for us and not worked for us. But anyway, so food preservation, and it does, if you don't have a garden, another huge thing, that there are some things we don't have, like we don't have fruit trees, all sorts of things, but maybe you come across a really good sale on like some sort of fruit or even tomatoes at a farmer's market or at the store. So buy in bulk, they're on sale, and preserve them. And then you've got food throughout the winter where things are more expensive because they're not as readily available. That's huge. I've done that with fruit. I got a whole 20 pounds of strawberries one time at Costco because they were on super clearance last year or maybe 2 years ago, and I preserved them. I learned to can strawberries for the first time, and that was a lot of fun. What's going on? So things like that. Food preservation can be all sorts of stuff. That, again, whole nother video. I know, no fun. Okay, so that was everything I had under monthly. So I'm going to move on to quarterly, seasonally, and then some other things kind of through there. Something else that I had put under monthly, but isn't necessarily a monthly thing, or even a yearly thing. It is something, at least a year I'd like to try to do, but again, times change, priorities, all the things, is learning a new skill. This can be so helpful, especially those times, okay, like if you're single and you're not married yet, especially if you're still living at home with your parents, learn as much as you can, soak up as much as you can. I cannot emphasize enough like how much stuff I already knew coming into marriage, and that's really benefited Nathan and I. And I'm not trying to puff myself up by saying that, but it was just utilizing the opportunity that I had in the whole waiting for whatever is so beneficial. We're benefiting from that now, and it's, yes, if you have the time, learn a new skill. And again, regardless of what season you are, maybe you're just married, you don't have kids yet, learn a new skill. It's still something I like to try. What I want to do, I've been doing even with Bridger as much as I can. It's limited, obviously my time's limited, but don't ever stop learning. Okay, and some examples of learning new skills are, when it comes to food preservation, okay, gardening, canning, any sort of food preservation, dehydrating, sewing, and there's so much you could do under either of those, food preservation or sewing. There's so many different little things you can do. Right now I'm kind of working on a busy block, it's called, for Bridger. I'm going to make him one for church so he can sit and has little things, zippers and things. So I've been learning how to sew that. Painting the house, painting trim, all sorts of stuff. Woodworking. I built in this house, I built several things. I built a built-in, I built shelves, how to learn how to use basic woodworking tools, a saw, a drill, little projects, make a birdhouse. You don't have to make something right off the bat that's necessarily going to benefit your house. Although a birdhouse, I would argue that that's a benefit. If you put it outside and you're sitting here, in the living room with your husband, the shades are open, the curtains are open, and you're enjoying watching the birds together, that's an enjoyment. That's something you guys can do together, and that way you are benefiting your home. So I would say that was a benefit as well. But even in that, you're learning how to work with wood. All sorts of, there's a million things, but you understand what I'm saying. Learn a new skill, learn something new that can benefit your family. And then who knows what you can do with that later. One thing that I will say, we'll come back into the whole working thing, is working from inside the home. One of the things I do is I make t-shirt quilts. I don't do a gazillion, obviously, because the bulk of my time is taken up. But especially when I didn't have Bridger and I was in the home, but I was still bringing in a little bit of money, and I was working from in the home. So that's one thing I do is I like, and I discovered that I really enjoy it, making t-shirt quilts. But even in that, I would say, okay, I don't think it's wrong that the money that you make goes directly to things around the home, or, you know, to, I should say, bills and stuff. But I guess I would caution and just say to be careful not to become reliant on that as your source of income. Because the reason I say that is things can change really quick, and all of a sudden, you know, have a baby, all of a sudden you don't have that source of income, and you should never be, you know, reliant on that to bring that in. Someone woke up way too early from his nap, so he's gonna be grouchy. Anyway, okay, well, yeah, I was talking about making quilts. So, yeah, maybe when you learning new skills, you just never know how the Lord's gonna use them, you know? Learning how to do all these different things, and not just from a financial aspect, you know, looking at it, oh, I can make money at this. There's nothing wrong with looking at something like that, but also, more importantly, is how I can use this to serve others, you know? And again, you're making, in all these things that you're doing, you're making your house a home. You're making it welcome to others. You're proclaiming the truth from your home through your actions, through what you do, how you're serving. You're representing the Lord. And that's what's one of the things that's so important, and I think a responsibility of the woman is how your home looks. Even, you know, visually, that you've taken care of it, you can tell that someone cares and they're being a good steward. And you're representing the Lord with your home. And that's, I think, one of the big things you need to keep in mind as a woman and homemaking. That's important. Okay. Quarterly. I put this as quarterly because, I don't know, and honestly, some of the things that I do, I don't sit down and be like, okay, I need to do this every, 3-4 months. I do them several times a year, and that's the best I could put down as quarterly. I put a deep clean down here. Maybe it's more than quarterly. Certain things I would deep clean a little bit more often, some things less. And what I mean by that is like, washing the curtains. I do that a couple times a year. I don't really do that often. Maybe once a year, I'll be honest. It's not something I don't feel super necessary for us, but there are some curtains I don't think I've ever washed, but there's some that I have washed several times, depending on where part of the house they are. Washing curtains, washing rugs if you don't, there's some that I don't do monthly. Maybe shampooing the rugs, deep clean. Moving all the furniture. I don't always move furniture when I vacuum. Whoa. Again, I like to keep things off the floor, so it makes things easy to vacuum under. And for the most part, I can vacuum under everything. But there are some things that you have to move. So that's what is involved in, like, I think, for me anyway, in a deep clean. Here. What's this? What's that? Oh, life is so hard. It's so hard when you're tired and you don't sleep. All the things. But, okay. Yeah, so deep cleaning. Washing windows. I do not do this quarterly. Maybe once, maybe twice a year. There are certain windows I'll wash more than others. We live, like, right next to a field, so it kind of can sometimes feel like as soon as I wash them, the fields, they get dusty, but it doesn't mean not to do them. I just don't think it's as big of a priority for me. But everyone's differently. What? Let's see. Reorganizing closets. This is a great thing to do quarterly because not only things get messy so easily, so not only are you keeping things clean, but you can also go through things and declutter. So while you're reorganizing, I would say get rid of things. Where's your pacifier, little one? Have a Goodwill bag always, or a bin, always ready, always, open. You can put stuff in, and then every once in a while just go and drop it off. Or leave it in your car for several months before you drop it off. I mean, let's be real. What? Want this guy? What else? Cleaning out the fridge. At least quarterly, if not more. taking things out, washing down the shelves and everything. That's a good way. Got to keep things clean, keep things from growing science experiments in your fridge. Yes, clean out the fridge. Oh, paint touch-ups. This is a good one. You run into walls, door jams. I run into door jams all the time. So touching up and repainting trim, little spots in the house where we've run into things in the wall. What looks good, huh? What sounds good? Yeah, things like that. Oh, that buddy, that looks a little dangerous. There you go, down you go. Yeah, paint touch-ups. Okay. That's everything I wrote down for quarterly. Yeah. Okay, the next thing I wrote down was seasonal, which garden, I put garden under this. Again, if you have one or not have one, but even if you don't have the land to have even a little garden, I would encourage you, even if you're in an apartment and you've got a balcony, get some pots and grow some things. You can grow so much in pots. Herbs, I love fresh herbs. And if you grow a surplus of herbs, then you can dehydrate them. You've got your own spices, and then you're saving money on that. So gardening, and there's all sorts of stuff that go on with gardening. Another thing seasonal is outside work. Okay, so, and I think sometimes we can have perspective as women that there are certain things that are for men, right? And certain things that are for us to do. I think we need to be a little careful. I think you and your own husband need to make a decision on, the things that you guys want to do. Maybe he feels strongly that he doesn't want you doing certain things, maybe because of safety issues. I don't know, whatever. But always respecting what your husband's wants and the things that you guys have, decided together. So that being said, because I put mowing down, but don't letting that the fact that your husband do it or men do it to become a crutch that you can't go out there and do it. Help your husband out. Go start the mower, mow the yard, string trim, pull weeds in your landscape. Make your house look nice, from the outside. Be a good steward, not just of the inside, but the outside. Any general upkeep, outside. Yeah. Pull weeds. Make it look nice. Someone can say, someone really cares as they drive by that house. Plant some flowers. Make it look pretty. And that goes for the home too, inside. I think we can go overboard as women when it comes to decor and stuff, but there's such a balance there, because it is, I think, a big part of making a house a home is adding some seasonal decor here and there. Not going crazy. I personally do a couple things, except Christmas I do a little bit more because I like Christmas trees and I like Christmas. And Nathan likes Christmas, so it means a lot to him. Because I think it means more to guys than even they would admit or even maybe are aware of. They come into a home, not only is it clean, it's festive, it's light, it's beautiful, and it's refreshing and relaxing to be in. And that's really what you're going for, to create an environment that's a refuge for your children, first and foremost for your husband, and for anyone else who the Lord would bring into your home. Okay, so those were seasonal. Anything else under seasonal? Oh, replacing and storing seasonal clothing. Everyone may or may not do this, but if you have too many clothes, they don't all fit in your drawers. One thing we do is we have tubs of clothes, like right now going into the winter, I'll put my summer and things, in a tub downstairs. I don't always, just because I don't have tons of clothes, but if I my drawers start to get a little bit tight, I'll do that. So that can be done seasonally as well. What next here? And in all these things too, I just want to emphasize, you should know, hopefully, or if you don't, you need to be working on finding out and figuring out what's important to your husband and to your family. What means a lot to them. A lot of times food is important to a man, and maybe taking a little bit of extra effort with supper would mean a lot to them. That means a lot to Nathan sometimes, but he's not like, you have to do this. But when you take the time to make something that he loves, or to spend a little bit more time at it, it means a lot to him. there's other things too. So find out what's important to them and make that a priority in your home. Yeah, and there's a couple things I just realized that I didn't mention on here, and it's because Nathan does them, but maybe your husband doesn't. So, like taking out the trash. I take it out sometimes too, but most of the time, every morning when Nathan goes out, he feeds the chickens and stuff, he'll just take the trash out. So I forgot to write that down. But that's another thing, be a daily thing. Also, he takes care of all the animals actually, in general. So he'll clean out the cat's litter box and feed them all that jazz. So, but those are things that can be done too. Let's see. And the other category I put here was just serving. And serving, things we can do outside of our home, and we can serve a lot from inside our home as well. So the things I put down here, if you have the time, if you're finding yourself with some extra time, or maybe the Lord just has really laid something on your heart to do, provide meals for people. Maybe people who are going through a season that's hard, that's really busy, and you find yourself a little time, make them a meal, or say, hey, I want to bring you something. Or maybe they're going through a busy seasoning with a newborn or kids or something. Be a blessing, to your church family, to your other family. Visiting. This is one area the Lord has been laying on my heart more recently. It's not something that I am good at by nature. I'm not a visitor. I'm not just to go someplace and sit and talk with somebody. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses or bents and things that the Lord has made them. And I think regardless of those, there are things that we need to do and to cultivate in our own hearts. And this was one of them for me. So starting to make an effort to go over and see some people, whether it's elderly people or people who don't get out much. More specifically, I guess for me, I've been thinking of that. But we're all, it could be a lot of different people. Okay, so yeah, visiting. Other things, babysitting. Say hey to a couple, I'll watch your kids. You guys go on a date night. Stuff like that. So those are just some ideas of things if you have some extra time. Another thing that I would love to do, and sometimes I get there and then sometimes I don't, is you have extra time, is to do some extra baking. Always have something in your fridge, or not fridge, I'd say freezer, that you can take out fast and either throw in the oven and bake. Excuse me. So you can give to people. Is that water? So whether it's like you made a bunch of banana bread, zucchini bread, have cookie doughs already like dough balls already ready to go. You can just throw them in the oven, have freshly baked cookies to either bake when you have somebody over, or bake and to drop off and give somebody as a, to just be encouragement. Oh, I was thinking of you. I wanted to give you some bread. I've had so many people do that for me. One gal in particular I can think of, she's just been very gifted. She's very thoughtful in that way, and she's gifted in that way. Just randomly drop by some bread or something. Just so thoughtful. And it's just this little encouragement throughout the day, and you've made someone's day brighter and been an encouragement. So those are all things that are so important to do, because you are representing your home, and you're representing the Lord first and foremost. How your home looks, how you run it, all these things, they're just so important. I really trying to emphasize this, because all the things, little things like dusting, they seem insignificant, but they're really not. They're not at all. And so that's what I'm trying to emphasize and all that. Anyway, I think that's all the list I had. I know this video got long. I tend to talk because, I don't know, I just talk to Bridger all day, and so I'm talking to someone else, and it's like, real people. But, yeah, please, comment with things that you guys love to do, or things that I didn't include that you do every day. I know there are things that I've forgotten on here that I do throughout the day, but, yeah, these are just some things that are important to us that we like to do. Yeah, anyway. All right, I hope this is an encouragement to you, and go out there and homemake. I'm back. So 2 things I forgot to mention is I was just got up and doing those. I'm like, 2 things I wanted to, emphasize that I kind of forgot to while I was talking about them. One of them is under the serving category, and the things that I mentioned, there's obviously a lot of different ways in which you can serve, ways you can be teaching people things, or But the biggest thing I want to emphasize with that, which I neglected to, in order to serve, in order to know what needs to happen, you need to be involved. You need to be really plugged into your church. You need to be showing up. Okay, to prayer meetings is huge because you know what people are praying about. You know what needs are available. And then it doesn't mean you need to fulfill every need, but you're allowing the Lord, okay, to put that on my mind, okay, and pray about it. Is this something I can help, or a way in which I can be an encouragement to someone? But if you're not there, if you're not present, if you're not involved, you don't know what's going on. And so how are you going to know how to serve or what the needs are? So that's a huge thing. If you're looking for a way to serve and you're like, I just don't know what to do, start showing up. Be present. Needs, there are so many needs. You just need to be there in order to know what they are. Hi. The other thing I wanted to emphasize was when I talked about making money from inside the home, like I do with my quilts or something, and not getting in the habit of not relying on that money for, just your income in general, for paying bills. What do you do with that money then, and there can be so many different things that you do with that money, but putting it back into the home, I think is a good thing to do, and it's important. Sure, I think a lot of people, I'm making money so that I can do this, or I have a me day, or I can, and those things aren't wrong. Sometimes we need, just to go out and have some fun, if you will, unwind and do something. But for the bulk of it, I would say being diligent to put that money back into the home. And that can look a lot of different ways, buying things that will benefit your family, or even buying things that, like under learning, trying to learn a new skill, things that will help you learn a new skill, something I want to do, and then, apply to my family. Things like that. I guess those are the two things I wanted to emphasize that I neglected to. But anyway, okay, I'm gone for real. Last time, I promise. I should have maybe... It's hard when you start getting going and then you start thinking of all these things that sometimes talking does that to me. Like other things pop into your mind. But anyway, another thing that I think is really important in all of this to be doing as a homemaker is looking for ways, and this is even, I think, exemplified in, the Proverbs 31 woman, is looking for ways to save money, to be more frugal. That's something that's been on my heart lately. Looking for unique ways maybe in which we can cut our expenses down a little bit. Hey, you were doing fine just a minute ago. You don't need to be like that. One little thing that I don't think it really helps, but it was just it was just trying to do something, was our water takes forever to heat up. Forever. I don't know. I guess there's a way we can maybe try to fix that. Nathan's trying to think of some things. But anyway, so while it's still cold, because I can't wash dishes with cold water, I used to just wait, until it got hot. Now I save all that water, gets hot, turn it off, then I'll take that water and I have a bucket outside that I fill, and then we use to water plants. So instead of just letting water literally go down the sink and money go down the sink, trying to bring that back and use it. That's I think it's not enough where we really don't even feel an effect of that. Maybe we do, but either way, it makes me feel better about not wasting things. But there's also some other things that I'm trying to think of ways in which we can save more money. And anyway, so being mindful of those things, even searching things out, being aware and to try new things, even being, being able to allow yourself to fail. You buy something at a price, maybe it's terrible. There's a reason it was cheap. But you don't know, and you're just doing your best, and that's the thought, if you will, that counts, the thought process behind there. But anyway, I just wanted to share that as well. And I'm not going to say this is the last part because you never know, but I think pretty sure it is. Next time.